Hello everyone. My name is Jason Rodriguez with Z Prime. We want to welcome you to the second episode of our WE3Live series, Driving Clean Tech Innovation. And today we have the pleasure of being joined by George Hunt. He is a former CIO of Sydney Water and currently the Chief Strategy Officer and Head of Europe for Smart Energy Water. Thank you, George, so much for being with us. And also joined by Steve Clemens. He is the Chief Information Officer for the Sacramento Municipal Utility District in California. We're going to have a great conversation today on digitizing climate tech innovations. And we hope you enjoy this session. Please be sure to ask questions and use the chat function, connect with different attendees on the platform. And also just a reminder that the series is every Thursday at 11:30 a.m. Central. And our next session is scheduled for next week, February 25th, with Michael Donnell from the head of National Utilities for SAP. With that, George, I'll hand it over to you and Steve, and take it away.
Cheers, Jason. Thanks very much, and really appreciate that. So, Stephen, it's great to see you again. Welcome to the panel, and thanks for taking the time. It's certainly chilly at the moment over here in the UK. I hope you're doing okay. I trust your team, your family, and your the company are all doing okay over there.
Yeah, we're doing well. California is actually not quite in the same state as the rest of the country, fortunately. So, doing well.
Well, that's great. So we've got a great topic. Let's get straight to it. I've been following SMUD for a little while now, and we've been on panels before together, and it's amazing the agenda and the journey and the vision that you've laid out. So I want to give you an opportunity to talk about that in just a moment. But just to introduce SMUD a little bit, Sacramento Municipal Utility District, 6th largest public utility in the United States, serving Sacramento for 70 years, community-owned, not-for-profit, delivering on a fundamental promise to provide safe, reliable, and affordable rates. 1.5 million citizens. So I know in the conversations we've had before, you said that SMUD has always been committed to serving the community. And you've always said to me that because of that, the reason for that is because you are part of the community and you're owned by the community and you're really part of that. So with the eyes on the future and taking a real leadership position to address sustainability, you've set out a really ambitious plan called your Clean Energy Vision and backed it up with a 2030 zero carbon plan. Can I get you to share a little bit of information about what that plan entails to the group that are listening here today?
Yeah, absolutely. So it is probably the most ambitious clean energy plan in the country. Obviously, with the goal of being zero carbon by 2030, we're really looking at all the alternatives for our carbon producing plants and also working with the community on how we can reduce carbon in Sacramento in general. So building electrification, vehicle electrification, and all of that. So it's really been a community effort. As you mentioned, SMUD is embedded in the community. We work with all of our citizens and get their feedback. That's one of the most important things as well. So the Clean Energy Vision has several parts to it. It's more than just carbon zero. It's looking at keeping energy reliable, which as we are seeing across the country, that reliability is critically important, and also to keep our rates low. So we have plans on how much we can increase our rates, working with the community, keeping in mind as well that a lot of our citizens may not be able to afford their electricity if it went too high. So we're balancing everything right now in terms of our new clean energy strategy. So it's very ambitious. We do have about half of our electric production right now is clean energy. So we have several hydro plants, we have large solar farms, and we have wind as well. So a real broad mix of generation and also natural gas production. Back in the 90s, we had a nuclear power plant. In about 98, that was shut down and made the big shift to more renewable energy and also to natural gas. So we're not unused to being able to switch our production of electricity.
That's fantastic. Thanks so much. it's such an inspiring journey. I've been listening to you and listening to your chief executive for a little while about all of this. And what I've also realized is actually you're setting a leadership position in your industry peer group as well. You know, the other utility or electricity and power providers are looking at you and looking at what you're doing, and learning from you. I'm really keen on taking your view on how are you seeing your impact on the wider ecosystem, both in Sacramento, California, United States, and even further afield than that?
Yeah, I think the exciting part about it is because we do have such an ambitious goal, we're starting to see a number of partners that really want to work with us. So one of my projects right now is to really look at how we create an innovation culture at SMUD. So really looking at innovation in general. How do we work with our partners? How do we get them together thinking about innovation? How do we begin partnerships with them on the work that we're doing? So it's nice because as we get our clean energy plan out there, we're having a lot of companies, a lot of partners, universities, researchers coming to us and asking how they can be part of it. So looking at that mix of expertise out there in the industry is exciting for us. We want to be the leaders. We want to be able to solve this problem and do it in a very creative way, in a cost-effective way, and one that really meets the needs of our customers. So it's, like I say, it's really exciting. And working on innovation and working with the companies that we partner with and having them give us ideas and us give them ideas is helping to shape their products, and then also to shape what we're doing in the community.
I love that. Just to see how people can come together and serve a purpose that they feel is really important to them is very inspiring, and I'm seeing that around different parts of the world on all sorts of things. So it does move slightly to the next question I've got, which is all about winning hearts and minds. It's pretty clear to me that this is a very bold plan. It's a very clear vision, but it's got real purpose, and it's helping to unify not only the sort of partner ecosystem that you have and the use of a platform like WE3 to share some of those ideas, but it's actually unifying the organization and unifying the culture of SMUD as well. So can you share a little bit about what's happened internally in the company in terms of getting behind this vision? You've been in the organization a little while, so you know what it was like before the vision became very visible, but I'm really keen to hear the effect it's had, particularly in the last sort of few months or so.
Yeah, I think it's worth noting that the vision was rolled out in October, or at least the initial vision was begun to be socialized in October. So when we got our new CEO, Paul Lau. And the one thing I have to say about Paul is very charismatic and he's very innovative. He was with SMUD, or had been with SMUD for 38 years before taking over as CEO. So he knows all of the internal workings of SMUD, and he's very well known in the energy industry. He is an engineer at heart, and he looks at the possibilities. So I think having him share the vision, number one, as he started to roll it out, you know, I think having such an ambitious vision can cause a lot of people to be skeptical and maybe to dismiss it. That could happen in an organization. That didn't happen here. I think the staff were energized to think, wow, we have something ambitious that SMUD can do. And because we're vertically integrated, doing our own generation, distribution, and retail, we have the capacity to really be the model. And being able to test bed new technologies, battery storage, electrification, electric vehicle charging, you know, whatever it may be, and working with the community, staff have gotten behind it. And what I'm hearing from staff are, wow, I'm more motivated than I've been in a long time. This is really exciting. So the feedback I'm getting is just that. So my staff, I have 300 staff in technology. And one of the things that I did to begin socializing the vision was I do what's called CIO Connect. Every 2 weeks, I have a meeting with my staff. It's a virtual meeting. I usually have about 250 people attend. And it was really talking about the vision, just socializing it. What does it mean? Getting the staff's feedback, getting their input, pros and cons, things that we would have to do technically in order to be able to do this as well. And what I've done also is begun to have guests from internal into SMUD in those meetings. So Paul Lau spoke, all the executives have spoke, and then staff who have their jobs are integral to really making this succeed. A couple weeks ago, I had somebody who was the lead of our pumped hydro project come and speak about pumped hydro. So really, as we begin to socialize it, get the experts internal, them talking about their work, being proud of their work, and then really getting staff to see how they fit into that work and how they will be a part of that whole 2030 vision has energized everyone. And one of the things that we've started doing, I mentioned innovation. We have started what we're calling the process of innovation. And that's working across culture, governance, strategy, planning, and really laying out with the staff of SMUD. How do you get your ideas in? Because one of the things I've realized is how everyone has an expertise that may not be tapped, or an idea or something. So staff are becoming participants in giving their ideas and suggestions in this process of innovation. So I'd say that's the one big thing in a very short period of time that's gotten staff behind this. And like I say, I couldn't be more pleased with how energized people are and seeing the possibilities for SMUD and the greater energy industry.
Do you know, I love that story. I know this is a slight digression, but it reminded me of a story somebody told me a little while back about JFK visiting NASA in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
You probably all heard the story, but it just puts the hairs on the back of my neck when I think about it, about walking along the corridor and seeing a guy with a broom just, tidying up the corridor, and JFK asking, "What's your role?" And he said, "I'm helping to get a man on the moon." And what really strikes me about that is if you energize the staff, or you interest the staff, and you get them to buy into an outcome, and they understand their contribution to that outcome, it changes the culture of an organization totally and utterly. And the way you get things done, the speed you get things done, the level of collaboration and support is huge. And I've just heard you say that that's the kind of impact that you're feeling over at SMUD at the moment.
Yeah, and I have to say too, I mean, the vision itself and in all its complexity, it's actually fairly simplistic, right? Being able to grasp onto carbon zero by 2030, low rates, and reliability, everyone can grasp onto that. One of the things that I find in organizations, sometimes they like to take the complex route. And I think when I got to SMUD, there was our strategic plan, which was very complex of everything we were trying to do. And it was hard for a lot of people to digest in a way. What I think about this vision is there's something for everyone in it, just like you say. All of my staff see themselves in it. It's not just about the generation technologies. It truly is about, and about the community. The second part of your question was about the community and getting them behind it. We do know that there's been a massive uptick in solar, people getting solar, buying electric vehicles, battery storage. And we realize and that we need to work with the community and have them realize that that is part of the grid. As they're adding anything that is part of the grid, whether it be solar or battery storage, we have to have a part of that with them and be their partner. So we've been doing a tremendous amount of outreach and getting feedback on the 2030 plan, having focus groups, community support groups. One of the things we realize, there's a lot of our customers who are very, very low income, live in multi subdivisions, apartment complexes and such, that we want to get behind this as well, because it also means clean air for them, but it also means that we're going to keep our rates low. So a lot of feedback in that area as we start to talk about virtual power plants and getting the community involved in that. We're laying out our vision to them and being very transparent as well. All of our board meetings and our committee meetings are now online. It's the interesting thing about COVID. As we moved online, we're getting even more community feedback and people watching our Zoom meetings. And they're participating by asking the board questions. And in March, we're actually rolling out to the board our pretty concrete plan of what we're going to do for 2030. It's going to lay out a lot of the generation technologies that we'll be looking at and potentially the costs and all of that. So the public will have feedback in that as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And actually, that's quite a nice segue into the next part of my questioning here, which is, let's talk about the technology a little bit. We're both technologists at heart. We love technology. We love the relevance of technology, the insights, the digitization of what we do, etc. So, and you've mentioned a little bit about your team getting excited. I really wanted to give you this, give you a bit of a platform here to tell us a little bit about what your team have been doing. You know, what's got them really excited? What successes have they had? What are you learning? You know, how are you involving partners and those kind of things? So, you know, it'd be good for us to get a bit techie.
Sure. So let me give you a little bit, just a snippet of my background. So when I was working at Qualcomm being the largest mobile technology company in the world, you know, they're really the founders of 3G, 4G technology. And IoT was a really big thing when I was there. As we start to think about connected devices, Qualcomm had plans for connected devices in vehicles, a lot of vehicle technology, which is embedded in a lot of the vehicles that we have today. Also medical devices, just a variety of things. Everything, in some ways, everything being connected, that was sort of the goal. And I see the same thing in terms of the utility industry right now. Our customers, when you start to think about the connectedness of the house, both behind the meter and even you know, with sensors and all of that potentially in the grid, we have to be able to integrate those into our environment and also collaborate with our customers in new and innovative ways and meet them where they're at. So some of the things we're looking at for the future that I think are really important is really how do we, if we're talking about demand response, for example, how do we help manage the devices potentially that our customers have? Or how do we send them information and messaging that helps during maybe a critical peak time during a heat storm in California? One of the things people probably don't know about Sacramento is it can get extremely hot, sometimes up to 110, 115 degrees. And we start hitting our peak of energy generation of supply. So it's really important to work with our customers. And if we have a more connectedness with them, with messaging, with apps, with thermostats, whatever it may be, we can work with them on demand response like we haven't been able to before. So that's exciting. Also, as we're starting to think about pilots of vehicle to grid, other types of technologies, battery storage, of working with our customers on that, you know, how do we integrate that to help them and help the grid as well? That's exciting technology. We are relying more and more on our mobile app, and we're looking at ways to integrate third-party technologies into it. For example, being able to potentially message for a Nest thermostat or a vehicle or whatever it may be, so that we can also individualize our messaging to our customers. We're looking at making sure that we know what our customers have and what they're doing as well, having that customer 360-degree view, so that we can really provide individual messaging. We're working with the Department of Motor Vehicles to understand who has purchased an electric vehicle, so we can work with them in a more, I guess, more innovative way, so that we can message to them as well, and we can work with them on how to charge, where to charge. We're beginning to look at our charging infrastructure across the territory. So we certainly want to be able to use our mobile app and use integration technology to be able to work with our customers to use our charging environment, and also to take advantage of our EV rates so that we can keep their rates low as well. So a whole host of things. I think data is going to play into this a lot, you know, looking at IoT devices, behind the meter devices, being able to look at how people are using energy and help them really manage their electrical usage so they have a better understanding of what they're using and how they could use it more efficiently.
There's so many things in there. I think the theme of hyperconnectivity is really interesting. The idea that we've got connected customers, we've got connected assets, whether they're small IoT assets and sensors, smart meters, or whether they're large operational assets. And the idea of connected workforce as well, even if it's a workforce that includes employees as well as partner staff, etc. One thing I am quite interested in, and I haven't asked you this question before, so I don't know the answer, but one thing I'm interested in, it was an area that I found really interesting when I was at Sydney Water, which is this fusion of IT and OT. Traditionally, these domains have been somewhat air gapped, partly because of security and partly because of engineering and asset management sort of practices and so on. I'm interested in what's your perspective on the fusion of IT and OT to deliver on this vision, and also what keeps you awake at night in terms of cybersecurity and protecting data and protecting assets and things like that?
Those are two great questions. So the first one about IT/OT. At SMUD, and I don't know if this was, I've been at SMUD now for 4 years, actually going on 4.5 years. There was a very distinct line between IT and OT. The OT side managed everything, their servers, their environment, they kept it to themselves. I think as IT has evolved over the past several years at SMUD, I encourage my staff to understand everything that's happening technically at SMUD, whether it's in the generation facilities, at the substations, whatever it may be, because technology is advancing in ways that will help us out in the distribution area. We're putting in a new ADMS that my staff run. So we have started to get far more embedded into the OT side. We manage all the technical environment now in terms of upgrades, patching, and all of that. It's just really the operation of it that we don't manage. We don't operate it, obviously. You know, it's the operators who are doing that. And there's a lot of trust between them. I think that was a big issue of establishing trust among the IT and OT side. Sometimes when you have a separation like that, there can be a lack of trust, or, you know, my area is so specialized that you can't touch it or look at it. So we've really established that trusting relationship, and have one of the things we've done recently is upgrade all of our network connectivity to every one of our facilities, to our substations, and really started to add a lot of technology into those areas so that we can monitor just a whole variety of things. The other question in terms of what keeps me up at night in cybersecurity. So cybersecurity, I have to say, I used to work for a cyber company as well. In the United States, it's a company called iBoss that has done a partnership with FireEye, two premier cybersecurity companies in the US, well, around the world actually. And the nature of threats are becoming so sophisticated. You know, the one with SolarWinds recently that happened, which we run SolarWinds. I'm sure a lot of utilities are running SolarWinds as well. You know, number one is identifying whether we've been compromised or not. When something's announced, that's huge. You know, when that hit, it did keep me up, because I did not know whether we were compromised or not. Fortunately, we had the tools in place to be able to do sort of a retroactive, sort of an autopsy on the whole thing to understand whether we were or not. And we weren't compromised. But that's a tribute to really investing a lot in cybersecurity, investing in the staff and training them, and then having the right tool sets to be able to manage it. So that was a focus of mine, and it really has paid off, because we have had a variety of very interesting, close incidents that could have touched us. So we've got to keep up on it. You know, again, having worked at a cyber company, the threats are constantly evolving. Nation states, you know, just hackers for fun are out to try and test our environment. So that's, you know, it is a focus.
No, it's really interesting, because you know, when you're running national or critical national infrastructure, as you are, whether it's, you know, in the energy business or water or combined, you know, you've actually got your reputation and your customers' trust is in your hands, and maintaining that trust is really important. So it's really good to hear that you're on the front foot there. We've got a question in the chat just before I go to my sort of concluding question, but there's a question in the chat about how are you collaborating with other regional utilities? You know, because your journey is very bold and ambitious, and it's absolutely spot on. And I suspect that it shares a lot of commonality with where a lot of other utilities are either going or planning to go over the coming years. So what does that collaboration look like across the utility ecosystem?
You know, it's actually really good. And what I'll say is I encourage my staff to reach out to their peers in other utilities, ask them probing questions. What are you doing? So, you know, my staff have been working with Idaho Power, Salt River Project, Sempra, Southern California Edison, you know, in really talking to them about all the things that we're talking about, you know, because we're all in this together. As you know, California has an ambitious goal as well. I think California's 2045 for carbon free, you know, and all of us are in that same boat of how do we make this work and also have, you know, the adequate supplies of electricity during these peak times. So there's a lot of discussion that goes on. And a lot of times when my staff will come to me, I'll say, well, what are the other utilities doing about this? And if not just to see what they're doing, but also to share what we're doing as well. So I do view it as a family of sorts. You know, we really need to be there for each other.
No, I love that. Okay, we're coming up against the hour, so I have a final question for you, really. Or it's two parts to the question. One is this is a great platform for us to have this type of conversation and share the amazing things that you're doing at SMUD, the We3 platform, the clean tech series, etc. It's a great way of actually sharing and discussing and getting excited about things. I'm very interested in where do you see it all heading? How should we use this platform? Where do you see it heading in terms of smart cities and things like that? So, you know, the concluding point is that way over the horizon, where are we going kind of question.
Well, for this platform, I love being able to share what we're doing at SMUD. I like to hear what others are doing as well. So I do think one of the things I proposed to my staff recently is doing a roundtable with vendors, really begin to target, you know, some of the goals that we have and gaining ideas and feedback. You know, we have a lot of things that we don't know right now. I know SMUD obviously is, you know, trying to lead this and do a lot of work, but there's a lot of questions obviously that we have for others that others may have started to solve. So being able to throw those ideas and issues out there, you know, for example, hydrogen storage, it's a big one for us. Are we going to move to hydrogen as a fuel replacing natural gas? How do we begin to do that? Utah has started to tackle hydrogen storage with Hitachi and Mitsubishi. That's interesting, you know, using their salt caverns. What do they plan on doing? How are they doing it? So beginning to target some of those, you know, technologies that are on the cutting edge that are going to move us forward would be a great use of this platform. And I love being able to talk about what we're doing and also get feedback as well.
Well, it's been great to hear from you. I really appreciate, you know, your time, your honesty, and your clear excitement about what you're involved with there. So thanks so much, Stephen. That's fantastic. And I think I'm going to hand back to Jason now.
Thanks, George.
Cheers, Stephen.
Yeah, thank you, George. Thank you, Steve, so much for this great insights. I think these conversations, I think you're right. They could go on all day, and I think what we're doing is just try to start and ignite those, and hopefully open up some ideas for further collaboration and partnerships. Steve, we hope you'll come back and visit us later on in the year again and kind of give us an update on some of the activities there. And want to thank our audience as well too for joining this conversation and continuing it. And just a reminder that if you're already registered for this series, you do not need to re-register. We will send out reminders. Be sure to join us here back again next week. And all those, if you might have missed this session will be up and live and ready to be viewed tomorrow, possibly later this afternoon. So you will get an email. So don't worry if you missed some of it. We will make sure to put that on there. We'll also send it out to our audience. So be on the lookout. Again, thanks, George. Thanks, Steve. and all of you have a fantastic day. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Thanks
Jason.
very much.